Tonight on Y News, Malacanang suspends work in government offices and classes in Metro Manila as heavy rains caused flooding in parts of the national capital region. Negros Occidental town declares dengue outbreak after cases surpass the epidemic threshold. The Department of Health maintains the ban on dengue vaccines cannot be lifted as it is not registered with European Union drug regulators. A retired military official allays fears of alleged Chinese spying in Puerto Princesa in Palawan. And Manila Mayor Isko Moreno shuts down 7 bars in Manila for violating the liquor ban rule. Good evening. With the heavy rains experienced today, several roads are now flooded. Classes and government work were also suspended. But with the heavy rain came heavy traffic. Joannano reports why.
The MMDA calls on motorists to be disciplined so as not to worsen the terrible traffic situation, especially on major thoroughfares. Earlier today, EDSA Traffic Chief Edison Bong Nebrija observed that bus drivers did not follow traffic policy. And this, he pointed out, led to a monster situation on the roads.
Kasi nakabalagbag na po, halos 3 o 4 na lanes na ang kinuha nila. And those city buses na sinasabi namin, bawal kayo sa flyover, hindi kayo pwedeng mag-flyover. Almost all of them went to the flyover kasi nga mabagal yung service road. And what they did, nag-unahan dun sa flyover, they literally blocked the Kamuning flyover.
The MMDA adds that the sudden suspension of classes and work in some offices also contributed to the headache traffic.
Ang naging problema, nakapasok na yung mga bata. Remember, in Ortigas alone, there are 6 private schools and also yung mga public schools. So yung sa mga inner roads, nabarahan dahil nagsaan yung labasan ng mga bata, yung mga school bus, yung mga jeep, yung mga susundo.
Malacanang suspended work in government offices and classes in Metro Manila today due to the heavy rain brought about by the southwest monsoon and the trough of a low-pressure area. The suspension of work and classes was carried out through Memorandum Circular No. 63 signed by Executive Secretary Salvador Meljaldea. It was declared effective at 3 p.m. According to the MMDA, the terrible traffic situation also resulted from several road accidents in EDSA aside from the heavy rainfall and flooding. Joannano, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Local governments now follow protocols in suspending classes when bad weather affects the country. Ray Pelayo details why.
The Philippines experiences calamities year-round, and one of the reasons is the effect of weather disturbances. Due to this, the government has issued an automatic protocol for class suspension in localities. Based on Executive Order No. 66, Series of 2012, when a tropical cyclone threatens the Philippines and tropical cyclone wind signal No. 1 is raised in an area, it means classes are suspended in the preschool level. When signal No. 2 is declared, preschool, elementary, and secondary levels have no classes. If signal No. 3 and higher is raised, there must be no classes in schools for all levels. But if there is no tropical cyclone monitored by the State Weather Bureau, the local government units are authorized to decide on suspending or canceling classes in their jurisdictions if their respective areas are affected by heavy rains. Not only tropical cyclones, but even other weather systems like thunderstorms, low-pressure area, and monsoons may also cause flooding. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration or PAGASA has also issued a color-coded heavy rainfall warning. The public should monitor the weather condition if a yellow warning is raised, especially those in low-lying areas and near river channels. Flood is threatening if the warning is upgraded to orange. Residents should be alert and prepared for possible evacuation. Torrential rains may be experienced when red warning is raised, and residents in affected areas must be evacuated to safety. Ray Pelayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The southwest monsoon will continuously affect most parts of Luzon. Based on the forecast of Pagasa, monsoon rains will be experienced over Metro Manila, Ilocos Region, Cordillera Administrative Region, Zambales, Bataan, Calabarzon, and Mimaropa. Flooding, especially in low-lying areas, may happen. Meanwhile, a low pressure was spotted at 1,060 kilometers east of Basco, Batanes. Its trough will bring scattered rain showers and thunderstorms in Bicol Region, Visayas, and Caraga and Davao Region. The rest of the country will also experience thunderstorms. Pagasa said the LPA may develop into a tropical cyclone this weekend and be named Hannah. It would enhance the southwest monsoon and make the next 5 days rainy in most parts of Luzon. The mayor of Murcia, Negros Occidental, declares dengue outbreak in the municipality. He has also taken action to address the health issue. Lalaine Moreno has the reason why.
I decided to declare, no, kay nag-purchase kid ako sa isa ka fogging machine, no, emergency purchase for that alone.
With a rising number of dengue cases in his municipality, Mayor Jerry Rojas decides to declare a dengue outbreak in his locality. He has, however, allayed fears of residents. On July 30, the Anti-Dengue Task Force of LGU Murcia, composed of the Mayor's Office, Municipal Health Office, DILG, MDRRMO, PNP, and Association of Barangay Council conducted the anti-dengue fogging operation at Barangay Lopez Haina. According to the Municipal Health Office or MHO, residents who experience symptoms of deadly mosquito carrier disease do not seek medical attention right away. Because of this, it's almost too late to find out they are infected by the dengue virus. The Murcia MHO admit, however, they lack equipment and space to treat dengue patients.
In reality, we don't have. We can assess and we can triage them who goes home, and then we can give them the instructions, because not all dengue should be referable to the hospitals. It's just a matter of hydration, so if it's just mild and moderate.
Based on data from July 1 to July 20 this year, 160 dengue cases were recorded in Murcia. This figure is over 300% more than the number of cases in the same period last year. Murcia is the first local government unit to declare a dengue outbreak in Negros Occidental. According to Mayor Rojas, Murcia has the 10th highest number of dengue-affected residents in the entire province. The local chief executive appeals to the entire municipality to clean the surroundings to prevent the further breeding of the dengue virus-carrying mosquitoes. Lalaine Moreno, UNTV News and Rescue, Negros Occidental.
The Department of Health cannot recommend using dengue vaccines in the country again. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
The Food and Drug Administration or FDA suspended dengue certificate of product registration on February 19, 2019. Health Undersecretary and FDA officer in charge Eric Domingo explains that French pharmaceutical company Sanofi Pasteur did not comply with the submission of documents required for the registration of dengue in the country.
So, ibig sabihin wala naman siyang lisensya. Hindi siya maaaring ipasok dito at hindi siya maaaring gamitin.
Despite this, the DOH says there are no medicines or vaccines which can be given to the public to fight dengue. There are 2 vaccines undergoing testing, but it is not possible to use either of the 2 this year.
Mga clinical trial pa lang ito and we're still waiting for the results to see if it's going to be a usable product at kung mariregister yan sa Pilipinas.
The only effective way now for Filipinos to avoid dengue is to follow the 4S strategy to repel dengue-carrying mosquitoes. Health officials explain that if they permit dengue to be used again, the vaccine cannot be used for mass immunization because it can only be administered for children 9 years old above which had prior dengue infection. As of January to July 20, 2019, the DOH has recorded more than 146,000 dengue cases nationwide, while the death toll due to dengue has reached over 600. Dengue cases in the country also increased to 10,000 weekly.
Meron na tayo ngayong 7 region na umabot sa epidemic threshold. Ito yung Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Region 5, 6, Region 8, 9, and 10. At meron pa tayong 3 region na binabantayan kasi umabot na rin sila sa alert threshold natin. Ito yung Region 1, Region 7, at saka BARM.
The DOH also explains although the National Capital Region has reached the epidemic threshold, there are fewer cases now compared with the record in the region in the same period last year. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Some centenarians in the city received checks from the government. Meanwhile, Mayor Isko Moreno shut down some establishments in Taft Avenue. April Senadosa tells us why.
The government work of Mayor Isko Moreno does not stop at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, unlike other offices. Last night, Moreno, together with the Special Mayor's Reaction Team or SMART, inspected some establishments, and Sherwood spotted selling alcoholic drinks. The place is a known drinking establishment in front of De La Salle University Taft Avenue in Manila. As a result, the local chief executive ordered the closure of the said stores for selling liquor within 200 meters of schools.
Pag namin daan bukas yung business permitted, o depende na kayo. So we're not after to the closure, we're after to the care for the students, and yung mga nag-aalala nilang magulang.
Meanwhile, Moreno personally gave a 100 pesos worth of check to some centenarians in the city.
Hindi yung sa pera yung pagpapahalaga sa kanila ng pamahalaang lungsod ng Maynila.
Under the Centenarians Act of 2016, a Filipino who reaches 100 years old will receive 100,000 pesos from the government. April Senadosa, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Welcome back to Y News. We pick up to where Angelo Castro III left off. I'm Alex Baltazar, and here are the headlines. Senator Richard Gordon says he has not taken offense at President Duterte's strong remarks. A retired military official allays fears following reports of an alleged Chinese spying incident in Puerto Princesa, Palawan. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno wants to upgrade daycare centers in the city and increase its workers' allowance. A bill seeking to increase the wages and employment benefits for media workers filed in the lower house. Interior Secretary Eduardo Año says there is no truth that China will invade the Philippines. This has been the speculation of many given the huge number of Chinese immigrants in the country. A retired military official, meanwhile, allays fears of Chinese spying in Puerto Princesa. Laya Ilagan will tell us why.
The Philippine military stations near Palawan are in the Western Command and in Olugan Bay. And the 2 Chinese tourists took pictures of a tourist spot in Puerto Princesa and not a Navy warship. This is explanation of retired Vice Admiral Alexander Pama. He adds the place spotted by the 2 Chinese tourists is a parking area of Coast Guard vessels and not of Navy warships.
Actually, sa Parola sa Puerto Princesa, Coast Guard ang mga nakaparaan doon. It's a Coast Guard station. Ang mga, minsan may Navy boats, may Navy ships doon para mag-provision lang. But strictly speaking, yung tide pool na lugar na yun is not a military installation.
Despite this, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana says that commanders on the ground must continue to protect the area.
I'm sure the commanders in the area will have some measures to protect itself from being observed or from any intruders that will interfere with.
National Security Advisor Secretary Hermogenes Esperon has earlier reported that the number of Chinese immigrants in the country is alarming as it has increased to about 700,000. Meanwhile, Interior Secretary and former AFP Chief of Staff Eduardo Año also comments on reports that China will invade Philippines given the large number of Chinese immigrants in the country. He argues that it's just a speculation.
Unfair na magkaroon kagad tayo ng conclusion na they are here to spy and to prepare for any invasion. That is very speculative.
Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue, Cam Crame.
Senator Richard Gordon says he is not offended by President Rodrigo Duterte's recent tirade against him. According to the lawmaker, he considers the president his friend and will not withdraw his support to the administration. Nel Maribuhok reports why.
I believe that there are good men in the armed forces, but at the same time, there are still a lot of good men under civilian. Ang problema lang kay Presidente, mababaw ang bench niya. He comes from the province, hindi niya nakikilala. So, mas nagre-rely siya sa military.
This was Senator Richard Gordon's reaction last Tuesday on the issue of President Rodrigo Duterte's appointments of retired military officials in several government positions. And the President didn't like such comment.
Yung otak mo, Dick, nagtutunaw, napupunta dyan sa tiyan mo. You are a fart away from disaster. Intindihin mo muna yung tiyan mo bago ka makialam sa trabaho ko.
But Senator Gordon is not offended by the President's remarks. Aside from being friends, they have known each other since they were both mayors. He states that everyone is entitled to an opinion and he cannot be onion skin about such things. He also thanks the President for his concern on his waistline and his health. He points out that thanks to his wife, his waistline has reduced significantly. Senator Gordon is one of the President's allies in Senate. The Senator has no indications that he will withdraw his support following the President's criticisms on him. He also maintains his great respect for the military and the armed forces, but at the same time just wants to assure the public that there is no militarization going on in the government. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The lower house of Congress is now preparing to conduct hearings on the proposed 2020 national budget. According to Deputy Speaker Don Fernandez, the Department of Budget and Management is set to submit the proposed budget in the second week of this month. The House leadership are now in the process of completing the chairman and members of the current committee.
Okay na yung APRO, yung members na lang have to be completed. Chairman pa lang, but now the speaker is working on the membership already.
The remaining funds for the free higher education has been disbursed without any trace of corruption, says Commission on Higher Education. Harleen Delgado explains why.
The Commission on Audit, or COA, has found out that the agency had unspent funds of over 20 billion pesos last year due to delays in the approval of the guidelines of Republic Act 10931 or the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act, and the non-submission of billing statements of state universities and colleges, or SUCs, and local universities and colleges, or LUCs. The guidelines were approved in August last year, 5 months after the release of the Laws Implementing Rules and Regulations, or IRR. In a statement, CHED Chairman Prospero de Vera III says the main reason for the supposed underspending is the unsynchronized fiscal year and academic year that has been affecting the agency's operations in the past years. He adds it was impossible to disburse the funds fully since only the first semester of the academic year was completed by December 2018. To synchronize the two, the academic year of all SUCs and LUCs will be shifted from August to July starting 2020. However, the agency agrees that there was a slow release in the tertiary education subsidy as they have to screen almost 1.5 million names applying for the 300,000 slots. The agency has also stopped its Study Now, Pay Later loan program as most of the students do not pay back. For now, CHED say they are working with the state auditors to address their observations, particularly the funds released to SUCs and private higher education institutions that has remained unliquidated for years. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Good news to daycare workers in Manila City. Your monthly allowance will increase 2 months from now. April Sinadoza tells us why.
At least 429 daycare workers in Manila City will receive an increase in their monthly allowance starting October this year. From 7,000 pesos, the daycare workers will receive 9,000 pesos every month, as mentioned when Mayor Isko Moreno convened the city school board today.
And next year, it's a regular 9,000. Second, pwede na kayo mag-request ng mga TV Plus, TV, mga teaching materials or tools.
This comes after Mayor Isko asked the Manila City Council to pass an ordinance to allocate 10 million pesos from the Special Education Fund for such allowance hike. The city government will spend at least 12 million pesos for allowance hike of daycare teachers, acquisition of TV sets, and audiovisual facilities.
All daycare teachers who are going to retire will receive monetary gift from the city government of Manila.
The mayor hopes daycare workers in the city will be regularized as soon as possible. April Senedoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
A lawmaker files a proposal to increase the wage of media workers. She admits, however, the bill may not easily be passed in Congress. Here's why from Grace Casin.
House Bill number 2476, filed by a longtime media person and now ACT-CIS party list representative Nina Taduran, states that security of tenure shall be given to those working in the media industry. For her, media workers should be given insurance in doing dangerous projects, as well as medical, disability, and health benefits. The Solon also pushes for 20,000 to 60,000 pesos minimum wage. The lady lawmaker also wants media people to excel in their profession.
Hindi po kayo forever magiging PA lang o forever magiging cameraman. Kung gusto nyong ma-promote, pwede. Paano? Mag-e-exam po kayo, may qualifying exam through this Commission on Media Workers.
The bill also states the creation of a Commission on Press Freedom and Media Security, or CPF-MS, which will be under the Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO. The agency will be tasked to oversee if the benefits for media workers are given to them. Congresswoman Taduran admits that this bill will not easily pass in Congress because many of her colleagues are owners of some media outfits.
Andun talagang dadaan tayo sa butas ng karayom. Kaya nga, kailangan ko rin po yung tulong nyo. Ang pagkakaiba lang nito, may backing tayo ng Malacanang.
The proposed minimum wage rates for media workers will be based on the number of years they have been on the job. The bill provides that pay rates would be adjusted every 3 years. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
We all go through our darkest hours in our lives. That is why it is important to breathe out our deepest thoughts and fears, according to a psychologist. Here's Harleen Delgado to explain why.
There are times when we are placed in the most challenging moments of our lives. Some find themselves one day with no roof on their heads after a great storm, while others lose their precious loved ones after a catastrophe. That is why a Filipino psychologist stresses the importance of stress debriefing to relieve persons from traumatic experiences.
Ito yung pagkakataon na kaya nilang mailahad yung mga pangyayaring naganap in such a way na habang nalalahad nila yon, lumalabas din yung kanilang emosyon. Tapos ikaw naman na bali nagdi-debrief sa kanila, gumagawa ka ng paraan na ma-diffuse or sabihin na natin na hindi na yung lumalala yung maging sitwasyon.
But what can you do to help a friend or a family member who is going through hardships or coping up with a painful experience? Dr. Garcia says that caring for and making time for them is a huge expression of support.
Talagang importante yung tinatawag nating compassion at saka empathy. Dahil kasi huwag nating sasabihin na inaarte lang nila yun kasi kung minsan sasabihin, ang arte mo, pare-parehas lang tayo nakaranas ng ganitong problema tapos ikaw nagkakaganyan. Hindi. Kailangan nga mas maigi na palagi silang kakausapin.
She adds, one should consult a mental health professional if a person is experiencing extreme sadness for 6 months, having a hard time to sleep or eat, or losing the will to go to work or class. No matter how hard your situation is right now, remember, you are not fighting alone. There's a rainbow always after a rain. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue.
To complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. The Quezon City Regional Trial Court Branch 223 has ordered the temporary suspension of the supposed implementation of the provincial bus ban in EDSA. The court has issued a writ of preliminary injunction that orders the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, and the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, to not proceed with the enforcement of the provincial bus ban while the court is still hearing petitions filed against it. The court order will become effective if the provincial bus operators who are the petitioners are able to provide the 1 million peso bond. The court has given the Office of the Solicitor General, representing as a lawyer of the MMDA and the LTFRB, until August 14 to answer the case filed by the provincial bus operators. The court will not give the two government agencies any extension to answer the case. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice, or DOJ, is looking into the possibility of abolishing the visa upon arrival policy implemented during the time of former Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre, although this move may have a negative impact on tourism. Mai Bermudez will tell us why.
The influx of foreigners in the Philippines has been apparent. In fact, from 2013 to 2018, the number of tourists from the United States was more than 5 million, while Chinese nationals were recorded second highest, which for the past 6 years went up to 4.5 million. This document from the Bureau of Immigration proves that the number of foreign tourists has grown significantly. As of now, the visa upon arrival policy exists for Chinese tourists and other nationals who were investors, athletes, part of the delegation to conventions, and officials from World Bank and Asian Development Bank. Under this, foreigners are screened and pay for their visas in the Philippines to encourage more tourist arrivals, something that has been abused according to former DOJ Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre.
I-amend na lang ni Secretary Maynard Guevara yung alisin na lang yung visa on arrival, doon na lang kumuha sa consulate natin ang pagkuha ng visa kung kinakailangan para ma-check nilang ng gusto itong mga pumupunta sa atin.
The Department of Justice says there is a possibility to abolish the policy, but there may be an adverse impact.
There is always that possibility, no? Ang concern lang naman namin dyan, two things. Number one, that scheme was developed to encourage tourists from China. So, ang immediate impact if we abolish it will be on the tourism side.
Secretary Guevara said that the Tourism Department is ready to follow any order coming from the DOJ, DFA, and the Palace. He also points out security concerns.
One angle that we also have to take into consideration is the issue of security, no, which was raised by Secretary Esperon. And I don't know about Secretary Lorenzan of the DND, but basically from the security sector, meron ding concern about undocumented Chinese nationals coming over, or documented but doing something else. No? So that is something that we also have to take into account.
But Guevara points out that China is a huge country, and it's a question if our consulates will be able to process applications there. The Secretary says this should be coordinated with the Bureau of Immigration and the Foreign Affairs Department. Malacanang and the DFA have earlier expressed they are in favor of the move to abolish the system. Mai Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue.
And for the news abroad, several small explosions have been reported across Bangkok, injuring at least 2 people as the city plays host to foreign ministers from the UK, the US, China, and Russia. 6 bombs went off at 3 different locations on Friday morning, including a busy SkyTrain commuter station called BTS Cheongnon-si, a government complex in the north, and at the site of one of the city's busiest main roads, Rama 9. 4 people, including 2 street cleaners, were lightly injured in the blasts and 1 was taken to the hospital. 2 suspects have been arrested in connection to the incidents. A statement from the office of Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha says he has ordered an immediate investigation into the incident. The United States is set to formally withdraw from a nuclear treaty with Russia, raising fears of a new arms race. The United Nations Secretary-General has warned that the world will lose an invaluable break on nuclear war with the expiry of a Cold War-era arms control treaty. Beverly Saison explains why.
UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres is concerned by rising tensions between nuclear-armed states, warning the world will lose an invaluable break on nuclear war with the expiration of the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, or INF.
And this will likely not reduce the threat posed by ballistic missiles. Regardless of what transpires, the parties should avoid destabilizing developments and urgently seek agreement on a new common path for international arms control.
Barring a last-minute decision by Russia to destroy a new medium-range missile that NATO says violates the INF, the United States is set to pull out of the accord on August 2nd, arguing that it needs to develop its own warheads to deter Moscow. Moscow says it's fully compliant with the INF treaty negotiated by U.S. President Ronald Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, which eliminated the medium-range missile arsenals of the world's 2 biggest nuclear powers. The breakdown of the treaty, the latest in a growing list of East-West tensions, is of grave concern because medium-range rockets would allow Russia to launch a nuclear attack on Europe at very short notice, Western experts and officials say.
And I strongly encourage the United States and the Russian Federation to extend the so-called New START agreement to provide stability and the time to negotiate future arms control measures.
The 2011 New START Treaty, a U.S.-Russia arms control pact which limits deployed strategic nuclear weapons, is set to expire in February 2021 but can be extended for 5 years if both sides agree. Gutierrez also said he was troubled by growing friction between the economies of the United States and China. He warned of the possible emergence of 2 competing blocs, each with their own dominant currency, trade and financial rules, their own internet and artificial intelligence strategy, and their own contradictory geopolitical and military views. The United States and China have levied billions of dollars of tariffs on each other's goods in a year-long trade war, disrupting global supply chains and roiling financial markets. Beverly Saison, UNTV News and Rescue, USA.
Meanwhile, Japan will remove South Korea from its list of trusted trade partners, deepening a bitter row between the 2 countries. The decision to strike South Korea off is its so-called white list puts fresh trading restrictions on the country. Seoul has said it will respond sternly to the unfair trade decision. The trade spat has been fueled by a diplomatic dispute over compensation for wartime labor. British police have ordered the evacuation of a town in northwest England over fears that a dam could collapse. Meanwhile, just days after a heat wave baked parts of Norway, heavy rain sparked a series of landslides. At least 1 person is presumed dead and many others unaccounted for. Jovic Burmas will tell us why.
In Norway, a 50-year-old man is presumed dead and several others remain missing after heavy rain triggered a series of landslides Tuesday in western Norway that sent a deluge of water, rocks, and mud into a village. The missing man was believed to have been in his automobile when he was swept away by one of the landslides. 150 have been evacuated after a landslide. Aerial footage posted to a social media shows mud going into a lake after the landslide. Everything in the path of the landslides was swept away, including homes and roads. In the USA, Some commuters on a New York City bus climbed their seats on Wednesday after water flooded the bus floor as it drove through the flooded area of Staten Island. A video uploaded shows people with their legs off the floor, with some standing atop the seat. Local media reported that a flash flood warning had been issued for Staten Island on Wednesday afternoon due to the expected heavy storms. And in the United Kingdom, police evacuated thousands of residents from an English town on Thursday after torrents of water cascaded from a nearby reservoir after a dam was damaged, with officials warning that subsequent flooding posed a risk to life. Aerial footage showed damage to the dam wall of the Tadbroke Reservoir, which sits above Whaley Bridge in Derbyshire, central England. Police said 5,000 residents were told to leave the town. Britain's Environment Agency issued a severe flood warning for the area, saying river levels in the River Goyt, which runs through the town, could rise rapidly. Jovic Bermas, UNTV News and Rescue.
Over 100 para table tennis players gather in Tokyo, Japan. Meanwhile, the FIBA 3x3 Prague Masters kicks off tomorrow. Ferdy Petalio will tell us why.
The 2019 ITTF Para Table Tennis Japan Open kicked off Thursday in Tokyo. Players include those from Europe, Asia, and Oceania in a tournament that has attracted no less than 122 men and 60 women. Results in the games will matter in the Para World Rankings in March 2020, which are one factor that determines places in the Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games. The 3-day tournament being held at the Minato City Sports Center runs until tomorrow. Meanwhile, FIBA 3x3 World Tour Prague Masters runs from August 3 to 4, 2019. The 12 participating teams compete for the $75,000 and points to climb up the World Tour standings. The top 12 teams in the standings after the last Masters in Jeddah will head to Utsunomiya, Japan, where the final will be played on November 2nd and 3rd. Ferdy Petalio, UNTV News and Rescue.
An 11-year-old girl from the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv has become a social media sensation after showing off her incredible blindfolded boxing routine. Kira Makojenenko can be seen dodging and throwing punches while blindfolded. The young athlete's father said that Kira started boxing at the age of 7 and sometimes had the blindfolded training to improve her skills. The video had been watched almost 84,000 times. A kindergarten in the Chilean capital Santiago is using social robots to encourage their young students to learn while using gadgets. Nina Armilio will tell us why.
About 30 children in this kindergarten in the Chilean capital Santiago interact with Sima, the first social robot developed in Latin America to encourage learning. The device, developed by mechanical engineer Felipe Araya, along with other experts, seeks to reinforce the work of the teacher using a striking tool for children.
Sima responds not only by verbalizing but through facial expressions and physical gestures, and that is what reinforces the whole part of communication.
Estoy bien.
This generates a lot of empathy and is what we use to deliver education and teaching to the children who use them today.
Sima worked through an application on a mobile phone, adhered to a plastic mobile body with 8 degrees of movement. In addition to the Chilean capital, where they are being sold to various educational establishments, it is also being used in the south of the country. With more than 2,000 hours of testing in Chilean classrooms, the startup is now focusing its efforts on bringing the product to Argentina, Ecuador, and Mexico. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue.
Kentucky is going forward with using electrofishing to monitor and capture Asian carp, one of the most dangerous species of fish. In a video shared by Facebook by the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, hundreds of fish leap out of the water as a boat unleashes an electrical current through the water at Barkley Dam. The Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife said stunning fish has become a practical and common way to count the population or tag the fish. The fish are only temporarily shocked from the electrical current and are not killed. The project is designed to limit the spread of Asian carp in public waters as they compete with other native fish and aquatic organisms for food and space. Can senior citizens still work as fast food service crew, just like what Mayor Isko Moreno implies to fast food chains? Find out as Mon Hokson reports.
Many laud the pronouncement of Manila Mayor Isko Moreno as he urges fast food chains to employ senior citizens. Anytime from now, we may no longer see some of the oldies but goodies eating in a fast food resto. But instead, you might just be surprised they are the ones serving you.
Kayong mga senior na nandito, mag-exercise na kayo. Dahil si Fernan Bermejo ay inatasan ko ng tukdi yung commitment natin na tumanggap ang mga Jollibee, McDonald's, lahat ng food chain ng senior citizen.
Well, let's ask the elderly if they can still take the challenging job.
Maganda kasi malaking tulong sa aming mga senior citizen na talagang may kakayanan pa magtrabaho.
Kunwari ako yung mag-hire sa'yo.
Apo.
Bakit kita kailangan tanggapin? Ano bang meron ka? Matanda ka na.
May kakayanan pa naman akong gumalaw. Meron na akong experience sa pagtatrabaho. Malaki ng mga naging karanasan ko sa buhay. Pwede na akong pagkatiwalaan sa lahat ng bagay.
Sige, tanggap na po kayo.
Salamat po. Okay naman yun. Pabor sa mga taong malakas pa.
Katulad niyo ba?
Sa kakayanan ko, I'm strong.
Tapos
walang trabaho, kailangan mo para sa pang-financial mo.
Ano bang meron ka? Ba't kita tatanggapin?
Talent. Maliligaya ka sa piling ng iba.
Sige, tanggap na po kayo.
Salamat.
Okay naman. Malakas pa naman eh.
Bakit kita dapat tanggapin?
Kaya pa naman ang katawan eh. Malakas pa.
Experience. Baka wala ka experience.
Meron. Government employee ako eh.
Ano ba yung wala yung mga kabataan na meron ka? Bakit kailangan kayo tanggapin na trabahante ko?
Sipag naman talaga ako eh. Joke lang.
In countries like Singapore and the United States, fast food chains hire elderly as long as the hirees are able to. But in the country, only a few fast food restos employ senior citizens. Just like a fast food chain in Cavite, who hired a senior citizen as a service crew. The elderly are hoping they will be given a chance to prove they can be an asset even in their old age. Just like what Mayor Isko said, if Americans, Singaporeans, and Japanese can do it, why not the Filipinos? Mon Hokson, UNTV, News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news this August 2, 2019. On behalf of Alex Baltazar and Angelo Castro III, I am William Theo, and before we close, we will recap with today's significant sound bites. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
I decided to declare no. Kay nag-purchase kita ko sa isa ka fogging machine, no? Emergency purchase for that alone.
So, ibig sabihin wala naman siyang lisensya. Hindi siya maaaring ipasok dito at hindi siya maaaring gamitin.
Unfair na magkaroon kagad tayo ng conclusion na they are here to spy and to prepare for any invention that is very speculative.
Alisin na lang yung visa on arrival. Doon na lang kumuha sa consulate natin ang pagkuha ng visa kung kinakailangan para ma-check nilang ng gusto itong mga pumupunta sa atin.
I believe that there are good men in the armed forces, but at the same time, there are still a lot of good men under civilian. Ang problema lang kay Presidente, mababaw ang bench niya. He comes from the province, hindi niya nakikilala. So, na mas nagre-rely siya sa military.
Yung utak mo, Dick, nagtutunaw, napupunta dyan sa tiyan mo. You are a far away from disaster. Intindihin mo muna yung tiyan mo bago ka makialam sa trabaho ko.